It was a chilly evening in Rome, the type of evening where the glow of the street lamps cast long shadows across the cobbled streets. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, was a man of great ambition, known for his unpredictable nature and world-changing ideas. Yet, even a person as confident and eccentric as Musk could feel the weight of tradition when stepping into the Vatican. The world had been abuzz with news of the sudden death of Pope Francis just a few weeks ago, and now a new era had begun. Cardinal Robert Prevost, the humble and visionary leader from the United States, had been elected the new pope. He had chosen the name Leo XIV, signaling his desire for reform and to lead the church into a new chapter. Musk had been invited to meet Pope Robert Prevost privately, an offer that surprised him given the clear divide between his tech empire and the religious world. He wasn't the first to be invited to the Vatican, but the specifics of the invitation intrigued him. There was no public ceremony, no crowds waiting for a glimpse of the tech mogul or the newly elected pope. It was a quiet meeting, and Musk was told it would be more of a conversation than an official audience. As he stepped into the small, private Vatican office, the air felt different, charged, almost as if history was waiting for him in the room. The walls were adorned with portraits of past popes and sacred symbols, but the soft, golden light from the ornate chandeliers cast a peaceful glow, one that was impossible to ignore. Elon Musk, ever the innovator, might have been used to negotiating in boardrooms and outer space, but this space was entirely different. The door opened, and there stood Pope Leo XIV. Unlike many of his predecessors, the new pope wasn't dressed in the traditional papal garb. Instead, he wore a simple white cassock, the cloth of which looked as though it had been made by the hands of artisans with the same care and dedication that Elon Musk put into his own projects. Mr. Musk, the Pope said with a calm smile, his voice a gentle contrast to the energy of the world outside. Elon, please, Musk replied, stepping forward to shake the Pope's hand. Pope Leo XV's eyes were steady, but there was a sense of warmth to them, as though he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Thank you for coming. I have been following your work for some time now. I believe the future is unfolding in unexpected ways, and there are many common threads between your efforts and the mission of the church. Elon raised an eyebrow, intrigued. The future, huh? I'll admit I didn't expect that comparison. The Pope chuckled softly. Perhaps it's not as unusual as you might think. After all, your work has reshaped industries, brought hope to new generations, and sparked a conversation about the future of humanity. You've challenged the status quo, much like those who've come before us in history. Musk shifted in his seat, unsure where the conversation was headed but aware that this meeting would be unlike any of his other encounters. As much as he liked talking about Mars and electric cars, he knew the Pope wasn't going to focus on that. I'm listening, Musk said, leaning in a bit. The Pope took a deep breath. There is much that divides us in the world today, politics, technology, even religion. But I think the answer lies in how we find common ground. How we bridge the gaps between innovation and tradition. Musk frowned slightly, sensing the seriousness in the Pope's voice. You want to talk about that? Innovation and tradition? Yes, the Pope replied. But not just in the usual sense. I'm speaking about the responsibility that comes with innovation, the moral and ethical questions that arise as you advance humanity. Just as the Church is called to guide the spiritual well-being of its followers, you are called to guide the future of technology and humanity. Elon was taken aback by the Pope's insight. It wasn't what he had expected. Most of the world saw Musk as a pioneer of progress, someone who drove forward with relentless ambition. But Pope Leo XIV was asking him to consider something deeper. I'll be honest, Musk said after a moment of silence. I'm not really the religious type. I'm more about pushing the boundaries of science and technology. But I can see where you're coming from. If we're going to make it to Mars or advance artificial intelligence, we'll need a moral compass. But I think the church and tech are separate worlds. The Pope smiled again, his gaze unwavering. Perhaps, but isn't it in the intersection of those worlds where the most profound discoveries are made? Elon leaned back, the gears in his mind starting to turn. The meeting had taken an unexpected turn and he wasn't sure what to make of it yet. But one thing was clear, this wasn't going to be just another high-profile encounter with a world leader. There was something more at play. The room was filled with an unusual quiet, the kind that only arises when two people, seemingly from entirely different worlds, begin to understand each other. Elon Musk had been involved in countless meetings with politicians, engineers, and billionaires, but this was different. Sitting across from Pope Leo XIV, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: curiosity. The Pope's words had struck a chord with Musk. He had always been driven by a vision of the future, a future in which humanity reached beyond Earth and established a permanent presence on Mars. A future where AI and automation took care of mundane tasks, freeing humans to pursue higher purposes. Yet, the question the Pope had raised lingered in Musk's mind: what is the responsibility that comes with such power? The Pope, sensing the internal struggle in Musk's expression, broke the silence. Elon, you've often spoken of the need to ensure that humanity survives beyond Earth. You've set your sights on Mars, a new frontier for human existence. But let me ask you, what happens when technology outpaces humanity's ability to handle it? Musk looked at the Pope, his mind racing. The question was far deeper than he expected. You mean AI? Or the potential dangers of unchecked technological progress? Yes, the Pope replied with a nod. But I mean something more fundamental. What happens when humanity, in its pursuit of progress, loses its sense of purpose or its sense of self? When technology replaces not just the labor of human beings but the very essence of what it means to be human? Musk's eyes narrowed, his fingers tapping on the armrest of the chair. The Pope's words were difficult to ignore, especially when the Pope was speaking in such a calm, authoritative way. Musk was a man who believed in the future, in the promise of human ingenuity, but here was someone who was asking him to think about the future from a different angle. I guess that's the question we're all asking ourselves, isn't it? Musk said after a moment. The whole reason I'm working on Tesla and SpaceX is to make sure humanity survives long enough to make those decisions. If we don't get to Mars, or if we don't manage our AI systems correctly, then we could wipe ourselves out. But yeah, you're right. I don't always think about the bigger picture, the deeper moral implications of what I'm doing. The Pope smiled warmly, as if he knew exactly what Musk was feeling. That's where the conversation between technology and faith becomes important. I believe that faith can be a guide to balance the extremes of progress. It doesn't have to stifle innovation, it can elevate it. After all, the Church has always been concerned with the welfare of humanity, the soul, the mind, and the body. We must not ignore the spiritual dimension of life in the rush to push forward. Musk paused for a moment, processing the Pope's words. It wasn't as though he hadn't considered these questions before, but hearing them from a man of such deep faith gave them a different weight. Musk had always approached problems from a technical standpoint, relying on logic and reason to drive decisions. But now he found himself confronted with something more abstract, a vision of humanity's future that included not just the physical but the spiritual as well. You're asking me to consider the soul of technology, Musk said slowly, more to himself than to the Pope. Not just the soul of technology, Elon, the Pope replied, his voice gentle yet firm, but the soul of humanity. Technology will always be a reflection of the people who create it. If we lose sight of the values that make us human, compassion, empathy, humility, then all the advancements in the world won't be enough to ensure a prosperous future. Musk sat back in his chair, his fingers interlocking as he looked up at the ceiling. The room, despite its opulence, felt far too small to contain the enormity of what the Pope was suggesting. For the first time, Musk began to realize that his ambition, his drive to push humanity forward, might need to be tempered by something greater than mere progress. You know, I've always believed that we have a responsibility to push humanity forward, Musk said, his voice quieter now. To not just follow in the footsteps of our ancestors, but to leap beyond them. But I've never really stopped to think about what that means in the grand scheme of things. Maybe I've been so focused on the how that I've neglected the why. The Pope's expression softened. It's not uncommon, Elon. Many great minds, including those in the Church's history, have been driven by the desire to change the world. But as with any great journey, we must ask ourselves, is the destination one that benefits all of humanity? Or do we risk creating a world that serves only a few? Musk felt the weight of the question sink in. He had spent so much of his life thinking about the technical challenges of space travel, artificial intelligence, and sustainable energy. He had rarely thought about the broader implications about how his innovations would impact not just the economy or the environment, but the human soul. I don't have all the answers, Musk admitted, his tone reflecting a rare moment of vulnerability. But I do know that we have to move forward. We can't stand still. The risks are great, but so are the rewards. If we get this right, we could change everything. The Pope nodded in understanding. Yes, but the future must be one where every human being has the opportunity to thrive. Not just survive. Technology must be a tool that serves the common good, not just the powerful few. That's why I think this conversation between us is so important. We must guide the future with both wisdom and compassion. Musk thought for a moment, then looked the Pope in the eye. I've always said that we need to think big. But maybe thinking big also means thinking about the greater good. Not just the next big thing, but the next great thing for humanity. The Pope smiled as if he had just witnessed a breakthrough in Musk's thinking. Exactly. And if we can find that balance between ambition and humility, between progress and purpose, then perhaps we can create a future that is truly worth living for. The room remained quiet, a sense of calm pervading the space, yet within Musk's mind, a storm of thoughts churned. The conversation with Pope Leo XIV had taken a turn that neither he nor anyone else could have predicted. The billionaire entrepreneur, often seen as a man of science and technology, was now caught in a whirlwind of philosophical ideas about the future of humanity. And the intersection between his vision of progress and the Pope's vision of spiritual and ethical responsibility. Musk's usual approach was to focus on results, quantifiable outcomes, the cold, hard facts of technology. But here, in the Vatican, sitting across from the new Pope, he was being asked to think about something much more intangible. What did it mean for humanity to thrive? What did a truly prosperous future look like when it included not only technological advances but also the preservation of human dignity, compassion, and moral integrity? The Pope, sensing Musk's internal struggle, decided to guide the conversation further. Elon, I understand that you see technology as the key to unlocking the future, Pope Leo XIV said, his voice steady and calm. But I also believe that, in our pursuit of innovation, we must ask ourselves a fundamental question: what kind of world are we creating with our inventions? Will it be a world where people are more connected, more compassionate, or a world that leaves some behind? Musk leaned forward, a mixture of curiosity and caution in his eyes. I get what you're saying, but I also believe that technology has the potential to bring people closer together. Take the internet, for example. It's allowed us to connect in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. The work I'm doing with Tesla and SpaceX, it's all about creating a future where humanity is united, not just on Earth but across the stars. The Pope nodded thoughtfully. That is a noble vision, Elon. But we must remember that the technology we create can also divide us. Access to technology is not universal. Many people are still excluded from the benefits that modern technology provides. In the rush to innovate, we must not forget about the most vulnerable among us. Musk's brow furrowed. He had always seen his work as something that could help solve many of the world's problems, from sustainable energy to expanding humanity's reach into the cosmos. Yet, Pope Leo XV's words struck a chord with him. For the first time, he considered that perhaps in his pursuit of greatness, he hadn't fully addressed the global inequality that technology could perpetuate. I've always thought that progress would naturally lead to a better world, Musk said slowly. That as technology advances, so too does the ability for people to improve their lives. But I suppose I've been focused on the big picture stuff: Mars, artificial intelligence, electric vehicles. And haven't really thought enough about how this affects everyone, especially those who are already struggling. The Pope's expression softened. You're not alone in that, Elon. Many innovators are so focused on their goals that they overlook the unintended consequences of their work. But this is where faith and technology must work together. Faith in the dignity of every human being, and technology that serves humanity, not just the powerful few. Musk sat back in his chair, his fingers lightly drumming on the armrest. He had always thought of himself as a disruptor, someone who could push the boundaries of what was possible, who could change the world with technology. But now, faced with the Pope's unwavering commitment to human dignity, he found himself questioning his own approach. Had he been too focused on the future at the expense of the present? Okay, I get what you're saying, Musk said after a moment. Maybe there's a way to rethink how we approach technology, how we make sure it serves everyone, not just the rich or the powerful. But how do we do that? How do we ensure that technology doesn't become a tool for oppression or division? The Pope smiled as if he had been waiting for this moment. That is the true challenge, Elon. We must find ways to use technology for the common good, not just for the benefit of a select few. And to do that, we must engage with the world's most pressing issues: poverty, inequality, access to education, and healthcare. These are the problems that technology can help solve, but only if it is used with wisdom, humility, and a sense of moral responsibility. Musk's mind raced as the conversation continued. The idea of using technology to address poverty and inequality was something he had heard of before, but hearing it from the Pope, who had dedicated his life to service and compassion, made it feel more urgent. Could Musk, with all his resources and ambition, really shift the focus of his work to solve these global problems? Could the future he envisioned include not just the wealthy elite, but the millions of people who had been left behind? I've always said that the mission of SpaceX is to make life multiplanetary, to ensure the survival of humanity in case something happens to Earth. Musk said, his voice quieter now. But I've never really considered the broader implications of that. I've been focused on Mars and the future, but maybe the most important thing I can do is help the people who need it most here on Earth. Pope Leo XIV nodded, his eyes gleaming with understanding. That is the right path, Elon. The work you are doing is important, but it must be rooted in a deep sense of responsibility. If you can use your technology to help lift people out of poverty, to provide them with access to education and healthcare, then you will be fulfilling a higher calling, one that aligns with the mission of the Church. Musk sat in silence for a few moments, contemplating the Pope's words. It was clear that this meeting had shifted something inside of him. He had come to the Vatican expecting a conversation about technology, maybe a few words of encouragement from a religious leader, but what he had received was something much more profound. The Pope had not only challenged his view of progress but had also opened his eyes to the human cost of technological advancement. I'll admit, Musk said finally, I've been so focused on the future that I've missed the bigger picture. But I think I understand what you're saying. Technology can't just be about the next big thing, it has to be about making the world a better place for everyone, especially those who are most vulnerable. The Pope's eyes softened as he leaned forward. Exactly. And that, Elon, is where faith and technology meet. We are called to use the gifts we've been given, not for our own glory, but for the benefit of all humanity. The discussion had left Elon Musk in a contemplative state. He had arrived at the Vatican with a singular focus, his work on space exploration, artificial intelligence, and revolutionizing transportation. Yet now, after hours of conversation with Pope Leo XIV, his thoughts were pulled in a new direction toward a more integrated vision of technology. It wasn't just about innovation for the sake of progress, it was about harnessing technology to improve the lives of every person on Earth. The Pope had planted a seed in Musk's mind, one that would take time to grow, but it was a seed that Musk knew had the potential to change the trajectory of his entire life's work. He had been so fixated on the technological possibilities of the future, on reaching Mars and developing the perfect electric car, that he had not fully considered the implications of those innovations on the people who needed them the most. Sitting there, in the quiet, opulent room, Musk found himself reconsidering his approach. He had always been a believer in the power of technology to reshape the future, but now he saw that the future needed to be shaped in a way that lifted up humanity as a whole, not just the privileged few. What you're saying, Musk began slowly, his voice almost as if he was speaking more to himself than to the Pope, is that the technology I'm working on, the cars, the rockets, the artificial intelligence, has to be more than just about progress. It has to have a purpose, a human purpose. The Pope nodded gently. Yes, technology can be a force for good, but only if it is driven by compassion, wisdom, and a deep understanding of the human condition. Your innovations have the potential to change the world, Elon, but it's crucial that they do so in a way that serves the common good, not just the few. Musk looked down at his hands, clasped together in his lap. He had always been driven by a relentless need to innovate, to push the boundaries of what was possible. But now, he felt an overwhelming responsibility that he had never felt before. Responsibility to ensure that his work didn't inadvertently create new divides or leave millions of people behind in the wake of technological progress. The realization hit him hard like a wave crashing over him. He was at a crossroads and the path ahead demanded something far more profound than just more technological advancements. I've always believed that humanity should aim to become a multiplanetary species, Musk continued, his voice quieter now, as if the weight of his thoughts had settled into the space between him and the Pope. But I've never really thought about the fact that Earth, the very planet I want to save, is in trouble right now. People are struggling, the environment is suffering, and inequality is growing. Mars might be the future, but it can't be the only future we focus on. Pope Leo XV's eyes softened with empathy. Your vision for Mars is admirable, Elon, but we must remember that the future of humanity begins here on Earth. Before we reach for the stars, we must first heal the planet we call home. We have a responsibility to protect it and to help those who are left behind. Musk's mind raced, a new sense of urgency swelling within him. For the first time in his life, he felt as if his work had to mean more than just technological achievement or economic success. It needed to contribute to the healing of humanity and the planet itself. You're right, Musk said, his voice firming as he made a decision in his mind. I've been focusing on the dream of colonizing Mars, but there's a bigger dream I need to work on, the dream of making sure that Earth is sustainable for everyone. I've been thinking about electric cars and solar energy, but now I see that it's about creating a future where no one is left behind, where everyone has access to the tools to thrive. The Pope's face lit up with a gentle smile, a sense of quiet pride in his expression. That is the true calling of innovation, Elon. To bring people together, to give them the means to care for one another and for the world itself. Your work can help us take care of God's creation, and in doing so, you will not only change the lives of millions but fulfill a higher purpose. Musk sat in silence for a moment, contemplating the gravity of what he had just said. The conversation with Pope Leo XIV had shifted something deep within him, a shift from a narrow focus on what was technologically possible to a broader understanding of what was morally and ethically necessary. He had always prided himself on thinking big, but now he realized that thinking big wasn't enough. It wasn't just about Mars or artificial intelligence, it was about ensuring that the benefits of technology reached the people who needed them the most and that progress didn't come at the cost of human dignity. I think I understand now, Musk said slowly, looking up at the Pope. It's not enough to change the world. We have to make sure we're changing it for the better for everyone. Pope Leo XIV nodded. His eyes filled with warmth and understanding. Yes, Elon. And that is where true innovation lies. Not just in making life easier for the wealthy or the powerful, but in ensuring that everyone, no matter their station in life, has a chance to thrive. For the rest of the meeting, the two men discussed practical ways in which Musk's work could intersect with the Pope's moral vision. They talked about expanding access to clean energy, creating affordable technologies that could uplift people in the most underdeveloped parts of the world, and finding ways to use Musk's platforms to address the global challenges of poverty, inequality, and environmental destruction. It wasn't just about building the next electric car or designing the next rocket ship. It was about creating a world that worked for everyone, a world where technology was not a tool of division, but one of unity and compassion. As the meeting drew to a close, Musk felt a sense of peace that had eluded him for years. He had always thought of himself as a visionary, but now he understood that true vision required more than just foresight. It required heart, it required humanity, and it required a deep commitment to the well-being of others. I'll make this right, Musk said, standing to shake the Pope's hand. I'll use everything I have to help create a better world. A world where technology serves everyone and where humanity has a chance to truly thrive. Pope Leo XIV rose as well, offering a final piece of advice. It's not the size of the project that matters, Elon. It's the intention behind it. If you remain grounded in compassion, humility, and a sense of service to others, you will change the world in ways you never thought possible. Musk nodded, a new resolve settling in his heart. As he left the Vatican, walking out into the bright, sunlit day, he felt a deep sense of purpose guiding his every step. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in years, he knew exactly where he needed to go. As the sleek black Tesla Model S pulled away from the Vatican, gliding through the cobbled streets of Rome, Elon Musk leaned back in his seat, his mind still churning with the echoes of his conversation with Pope Leo XIV. The city, with its ancient structures and timeless charm, felt like a fitting backdrop for the profound shift happening within him. He had come to the Vatican with a mind full of rockets and electric cars, but he was leaving with a heart full of purpose, a newfound commitment to humanity that went beyond technological innovation. For days after the meeting, Musk couldn't shake the feeling that he had just crossed a critical threshold. It wasn't just about pushing the limits of physics anymore, it was about pushing the limits of what was possible for the human spirit. He felt a sense of responsibility that was both daunting and exhilarating. A call to use his wealth, influence, and technological prowess to create a better world for everyone, not just those who could afford a Tesla or a trip to Mars. Shifting the focus. Back at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, Musk gathered his top engineers, project managers, and company leaders for a private meeting. He had been known for his intense focus and relentless drive, often pushing his teams to the breaking point in pursuit of his grand visions. But this time his message was different. We're not just building rockets or cars, Musk said, his voice firm but tinged with a newfound compassion. We're building the future. And that means we have to think bigger than just profit and innovation. We have to think about the impact we're having on the world, on every person, every community, and every corner of this planet. His team exchanged surprised glances. They had never seen their boss speak like this. Musk continued, his eyes sharp, his words deliberate. I want us to start thinking about how our technology can help solve real human problems. Not just by getting people to Mars, but by making life better here on Earth. Clean energy, sustainable transportation, internet access for all, these aren't just business opportunities. They're moral imperatives. As the days turned into weeks, Musk's companies began to feel the ripple effects of this shift. He directed Tesla to accelerate its plans for affordable electric vehicles, pushing for models that would be accessible to middle and lower-income families, not just the affluent early adopters. He also pushed for more investment in battery recycling technologies, aiming to reduce the environmental impact of his products. At SpaceX, Musk took a similarly bold approach. He proposed a new initiative called Earth First, a program designed to use the company's technological expertise to address global challenges like climate change, disaster response, and even food insecurity. The idea was to use the same innovative thinking that had gotten rockets to orbit to solve the pressing issues facing humanity today. Musk's meeting with the Pope had also sparked a renewed interest in his Starlink project. While the satellite internet service had originally been conceived as a way to generate revenue for SpaceX's Mars ambitions, Musk now saw it as a critical tool for bridging the digital divide. He ordered his engineers to find ways to make the service more affordable and accessible in developing regions, ensuring that even the poorest communities could benefit from the global connectivity it provided. To further this mission, Musk reached out to international aid organizations, offering to partner with them to deliver free or heavily subsidized internet access to remote villages, refugee camps, and disaster-stricken regions. The idea was simple yet revolutionary. Use cutting-edge technology not just to profit but to uplift humanity. A new kind of partnership. As word of Musk's transformation spread, the Vatican itself took notice. Pope Leo XIV, deeply moved by Musk's commitment to a more compassionate approach to technology, invited him to participate in a new initiative called the Faith and Innovation Alliance. This global network would bring together scientists, engineers, religious leaders, and policymakers to discuss the ethical and spiritual implications of technological progress. Musk, who had once dismissed religion as a relic of the past, now found himself drawn to this idea. He agreed to join the alliance, not just as a tech visionary but as a humanist committed to building a better world. Together, the alliance members pledged to work on projects that would address critical global challenges, from climate change to economic inequality to digital privacy, always keeping the dignity of every human being at the center of their efforts. A personal transformation. In his personal life, Musk also felt the impact of his meeting with the Pope. He began to spend more time with his children, teaching them not just about rockets and coding, but about empathy, kindness, and the importance of helping others. He even took time to reconnect with his estranged father, hoping to heal old wounds and set an example of forgiveness for his family. As months turned into years, Musk's companies thrived, not just because of their cutting-edge technology, but because of their renewed commitment to making the world a better place. Tesla's affordable EV line became a global bestseller, dramatically reducing carbon emissions worldwide. SpaceX's Earth First program helped provide disaster relief and digital education to millions. And Starlink, once a side project, became a lifeline for billions of people around the globe. Decades later, as an aging Musk looked back on his life's work, he realized that his true legacy wasn't just the rockets that had carried humans to Mars, or the self-driving cars that had transformed transportation. It was the lives he had touched, the people he had lifted out of poverty, and the communities he had helped connect to the world. And as he watched a live feed from a Starlink satellite, beaming images of children in remote African villages using the internet for the first time, he smiled. He had not only reached for the stars but had also helped bring a little more light to the world.